everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to another episode of Discovering Vaughan, where we explore local businesses in our great community that we have. My name is Gorette Marques, and I'm with Coldwell Banker Trek in Vaughan. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Today, we are here and we are interviewing Kareem, and he owns a great business in our local community known as Blue Lagoon Aquarium, and they offer quite a bit of services, sales, installation for aquariums, either in home or in business offices. So welcome, Kareem. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's start off right away with chatting about what has inspired you to open up such a business and why you chose Vaughan to be your community.
Yeah. I grew up in Vaughan, but
Okay.
I've been here for about 15 years when we moved here. As far as choosing the business, I've always been into, aquariums, but I guess like animals and wildlife and stuff like that. And then I wanted to do biology in a university, so I did that. And then the next step would have been marine biology, but then I would have had to move to either coast. While I was doing my undergrad, I was working at a pet store, and then that's kind of how it started. And then yeah, and that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay, great. So you've always had a passion for aquarium, the sea world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so why did you choose one? Is it mostly because you lived in the area, it was familiar to you?
Yeah. Everything was started off kind of local, like Maple, Vaughn, and as time went on, I just kind of expanded out from Vaughn. So
Okay. So
uh,
what other areas do you service?
so anywhere from Scarborough to Mississauga, and then
Okay.
Toronto all the way up to Barrie area.
Okay, great. So if you can go through the different services, give us an example of what your a typical day would look like. Is it mostly repairs? Is it mostly installation? What and kind of inquiries do you get mostly?
Installations are not consistent because it's whenever anyone wants an installation, but day to day is regular maintenance. So whether it's residential or businesses, it would be the visit would consist of water change. So we change some of the water for the aquarium, clean the glass, clean the sand, clean the filters, and kind of just keep it looking good, working good. That's a typical visit. And obviously, depending on what's in the tank, like what type of fish and stuff like that, it varies. But
How big are some of these tanks that you see?
there's some pretty big ones. I would say the most common size is about 3 to 4 feet, which is like an average size. Some of the bigger ones are like 8 feet.
Is it mostly in like residential homes, or do you sometimes even go to businesses where they have these aquariums on display just as a showpiece?
The biggest ones are residential, and then there's some like pretty big ones as well that are commercial. But oftentimes we're just limited with space in like a lobby or an office or something like that. So that's why we can't go as big as we would in a residential. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely beautiful when you walk into like a doctor's office or
Yeah.
a place where you can just walk in and you see your eyes go straight to the different colors inside the tank and the different fish floating around. It's really important to maintain that because it can get pretty unsafe for the fish that are in the tank, and it just aesthetically doesn't look as nice if it's not as clean.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's a very fine line between like, oh, what a cool tank compared to, oh, what a dirty tank. So um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the goal is always keeping it looking up to mark. And it does a lot. It does a lot for uh like when people walk into let's say like a lobby or a waiting room or something like that. And it makes it like pleasing to be there like while you're waiting. It's always fun to like point out the different things and look for different things. And especially like doctor's offices or dentist offices, which is it's the majority of my, I guess, commercial visits are medical offices. And they it does a lot for the patients. Like it's very calming, especially in an environment where you're already like, maybe stressed or nervous.
For
It does
sure,
a
it's
lot.
very
Yeah.
soothing. It's a
Yeah,
very
exactly. Yeah.
soothing environment, a very soothing space, even just to stare at it and watch what's going on inside the tank.
Yeah. Kind of take your mind off of your root canal that's coming up. But Yeah,
That's a good example.
yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful. So I guess, we touched upon the fact that, it's mostly residential that you see. Is there anything out of the box that you've done lately? Anything grand, an event or anything that's an actual, let's say an aquarium, museum? Do you ever, I know that there's some places where it's just about aquatics. Do you
yeah.
service those areas as well, or is it mostly low key?
Yeah, mostly commercial and residential like businesses and in home. Um what I've kind of transitioned to in the past maybe year or two is what I found is that a lot of aquarium owners, they would rather just kind of me bring everything to them in terms of like what's going in the tank, apart from like the filters and stuff like that needs to be replaced. I mean like the fish and corals and stuff like that, they prefer to
Okay.
be brought. So I've started selling fish and corals as well in the past couple years, and I've also started going to like expos where it's like the same way that there would be like a cat or a dog expo and you would go and get stuff like that. There's aquarium expos as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I started going to those, and that's a pretty good place to kind of just go and see the widest array of what's available and stuff like that. So
That sounds really cool.
yeah.
Where do you get your supplies? Like the fish and the aquatic life that's in the tank. Where would you get those supplies? Does it come? Is it imported, or there's specific locations for
Well, now we're doing a lot of stuff that we're doing now is captive bred or captive grown. So we're not taking stuff out of the oceans, which is pretty easy to do with corals because it's not a plant, but you could think of it as a plant, so it's relatively easy to grow. Some of the fish are a little bit more difficult, but yeah, we're doing mostly captive bred and captive raised livestock. So that it gets imported from like farms and stuff like that. But yeah.
So how do you see your business in about 5 years' time?
So I would like to expand with the obviously amount of clientele, but also maybe a store in the near future because right now there's no physical locations. And then the main purpose of the store would be kind of like a showroom where we could show off like the different types of tanks, and then people would be able to come in and say, okay, I want something
Perfect.
like this,
Yeah.
but maybe bigger or smaller or whatever they like. So yeah, rather than just like a store to where people come in and like see or buy things, more of like a showroom, like to showcase the different fish and tanks and things like that.
So right now, if people want to see what you have, the products that you have, the products that you sell, the equipment, get ideas as to what they can have in their home, or even the services that you offer, where can they get that information? Do you have a website that they
Yeah.
can go to, social media? Where can people see that?
Yeah, as far as like yeah, inspiration. We have an Instagram and a TikTok, and we just show off kind of like some of the tanks that we've done, and kind of like what's available and what can be done. And yeah, and that's just Blue Lagoon Aquarium as well for both of those. The website is mostly for quotes and where people can reach out and say, okay, I want this, and then I would give them more information on it. But as far as like a catalog of things we've done, yeah, Instagram and TikTok.
Those are the best ones. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
make sure to put those links up for our guests to be able to easily find you and see what you have available.
perfect.
That's great. Okay, so do you have any special promotions, special events, anything that's going on in the next little while that you would like our guests to know about, participate in, attend, anything like that?
I guess for events, it would be the expos, which are held in usually in Mississauga at their international center. I don't believe last time I checked, I don't believe the next one is coming up, but I definitely go to all of those. So not just me, but other vendors as well, to showcase aquariums and things like that. So it's called the Canadian Pet Expo or the Canadian Aquatic Expo. And they usually happen a few times a year, at least 2 or 3 times a year. So I don't think the date is released yet, but it should be coming up soon in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if we look that up on Google, we could probably find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. And then we can add that to the information today.
Mhm.
You know, this, you've already said quite a bit, and you've probably already touched upon this a little bit, but what is your motivation to keep this going? Do you feel like there's a need and that's why you're motivated? Do you feel that you're passionate about it and that's why you're motivated? Is there a lot of people in your industry that do the same thing? What motivates you to continue doing this profession?
Yeah, it's definitely a passion. I feel like when I feel like the work that I do, like day to day, it's
Mhm.
I was already doing it before it was a business. So I was already doing it as a hobby for 15, almost 20 years now. And it just transitioned into a business. So it's like I don't feel like I work. I just feel like I just,
Mm.
take care of my own tanks. So it's very effortless in that sense where it's definitely passion driven, and I don't feel like it's fun. It's fun to go to work every day. So yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the point I like. That comment that you said is really good. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel like a job,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So that's on that note, that's when we know that you're passionate about what you do.
Right, right.
Wonderful. So what is something that we haven't talked about, something that you'd like to share with our guests, that we haven't already gone over about your business? Think we do you think we've covered pretty much
Pretty
majority of
much.
it? Do you have
Yeah.
anything new that's adding on to your business? Anything that you're expanding from other than the locations? Any
Uh,
services that you'll be expanding on?
yeah. What I found is that so right now, if for my existing clients, if someone wants something, fish, coral, plant, whatever it is, they would kind of just have to ask me what's available, and then I would have to like send them what's available. So I'm working on a like expanding the website to be e-commerce so that I could showcase, what's available, and then they could at least pick out. I don't know if I'm going to ship yet, but they could at least pick out what's available, and I'll just have that updated, and then that way there's always like an available catalog of what's available to be bought, and then I could bring it when I come to the visits.
Yeah, because the visual, if we're not able to touch, right, the visual
Yeah,
really helps because we kind of want to see it in our space as well.
right, right.
The colors would look like, make sure it all matches, and
Yeah,
the lighting is appropriate for the space and it's not going to be too overwhelming or underwhelming.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, and I guess something else to touch on what you said. Uh, Another, I guess, the biggest misconception is that taking care of a fish tank is all like very difficult and it's like rocket science, but it could be very easy. It's just that when I started, when I was like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, um, it was difficult because there wasn't a lot of like knowledge, being shared at the time or advice. Um, but now it can be very, very easy to get into it. So it's very intimidating for a lot of people, and I can definitely understand that. But it could be very easy and cost effective to get into it. Like for example, like if someone wanted to start off with, a little tank in their kitchen, maybe like, a couple feet long, for freshwater, it's a lot less. Well, actually, for freshwater and saltwater, it's a lot less than a lot of people would think. So um, uh, uh, once people kind of understand that and understand how easy it is to take care of once it's set up properly, now all of a sudden a lot more people are interested in getting into it.
What do you find is the most popular fish that your clients?
Oh, for sure, it's probably clownfish, like the Nemos. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like yeah,
those are cute.
they're very, very popular. Most people don't even know that they're like real. Like they just think it's like a cartoon character. So it's definitely very popular with kids and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and it's
We
all
had,
water. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had a tank
Oh
when
yeah. Wow.
in our home too. And again, it's just one of those that sits on the counter. And
Hmm.
this one fish that we were told we had to get,
Okay.
called, I think it was called a pleco.
A placo. Okay.
Like
Okay.
something, it's a fish that cleans the tank,
Yes. 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 Like kind of
cleans
the
the
one you
tank,
see at the
keeps it
bottom.
all nice and clean, and we had to
Yeah.
make sure that we had it. It looked a little scary.
Yeah.
to say it was a
Yeah,
scary looking fish compared to all the other ones that we had in there. We're like, oh my gosh, maybe he's going to eat that one. But
yeah,
oh, they
yeah.
all live nicely together.
Yeah. Plecos are pretty cool. Yeah, they kind of just hang out at the bottom. They don't swim around too much, and they just eat the algae and stuff like that growing off of the rocks and the glass. So they do a pretty good job at taking care of the tank. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think we were told that it was mostly for the glass and just to we still would have to clean it, but
right,
it was just a nice we had to clean it less because we had that plan.
right, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah. It just
that
creates
was
more of
kind of
like
cool.
yeah, it just creates more of like a more complete ecosystem, right? Where you have different fish to do different things, and you could add in stuff like snails and crabs, and yeah,
Mm.
all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds fun. Sounds fun. Okay, so what are your goals for this year for 2023?
Probably the biggest goal would be the store. Looking at opening up
Perfect.
a physical location, um, and yeah, that's
That will
pretty much
take a
it.
lot.
And
That will
then
take work.
yeah, and I'll definitely still remain on the service side of it. It's just that like the hours would just be maybe later in the evening because no one wakes up on a Tuesday morning and they're like, oh, let's go to the fish store. So I can always do like servicing in the morning and then the store later in the afternoon to the evening. So I definitely still plan on uh, continue servicing, but just expand with the store.
Well, I think that that's a very important thing to point out because we enjoyed having our tank, but one of the toughest things was maintaining it. And when things went wrong, we weren't knowledgeable. We would have to run to the store to talk to somebody, try something else out. And if that didn't work, go back to the store. So yeah, definitely the servicing you wouldn't want to stop because I am sure that there are many people who appreciate the fact that they can get somebody out to their home to service their fish tank. And I
Yeah,
think that more people would invest in a nice and bigger fish tank if they knew that there was somebody that still was out there doing local calls
right.
to come and services as opposed to, you know, going into a store and saying, hey, what can I do? This is what's happening. How can I fix it? Oh, maybe try this part. Maybe try this part. Instead, we call Kareem,
Yeah.
comes to our home, and he's like, this is what you need. This is what you need, and have it all fixed for us. And it's up and running again. And we've saved our fish.
Yeah. It's definitely a little nerve-wracking if things start going wrong because you've it's a pet at the end of the day, like that's what they are, and you've grown attached to them, and you want the tank to do as well as it
Right.
could.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
an investment.
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Very good. Okay, Kareem. Well, I appreciate so much you taking the time to do this interview with me. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome, no problem at all.
So thank you for answering all my questions thoroughly.
Mhm.
If there is anything else you'd like to add before we go, now would be a great time. If not, I will have your information up and loaded to this interview. And for our guests that are watching, thank you very much for tuning in again. My name is Gorette Marques, again with Coldwell Banker. And if you have any questions on today's interview or any real estate questions, please let me know. I can be reached at 416-995-7344. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
You bye.